Hey everyone, welcome back. Thanks again for listening this week, and I'm so excited to chat with you. And today I want to start off this episode with a quick test. So, wherever you are, drop what you're doing, pay attention, and answer these questions about yourself. Are you someone who doesn't have strong opinions? Are you someone who tends to second guess yourself whenever you do make a decision? Do you tend to over index on right versus wrong? Do you have a fear of being seen? Do you have a fear of speaking up in the face of judgment? Do you have a fear of speaking your mind because you're afraid people will disagree with you? If you answered yes to any or all some of these questions, then I have news for you. You might need to work on your self esteem. But don't worry, I'm going to tell you some tips and tricks that have worked for me over the years, and I'm going to finally tell you how you can improve your self esteem. But before I tell you how to improve your self esteem, I want to go into why is self esteem so important. And it's kind of a bit nebulous because this is something that happens behind the scenes, right? It's an input, and what you're hoping for is an output of confidence, of success, of being authoritative, being outspoken, being authentic. All of those are outputs, but we can't really control those directly. What we can control though are the inputs. And one of the main inputs for all of those things I just described is self-esteem. And I'm not talking about confidence. I'm literally talking about how you feel about yourself and how you feel about the truth of who you are on the most granular level. Do you accept all of the parts of you? Do you celebrate them? Or do you tend to hide away certain parts of you that you don't want to be seen or that you might think the world doesn't favor? And if the answer is yes to those things, then the work now is to actually improve your self esteem so that we can finally start coming across as confident, outspoken, outgoing, authoritative, authentic, dependable, all of these things that are the byproduct of you having higher self esteem. And I think whenever you can control this one input, focus on this one input in order to get the output you want, that's what we're going for. And that's also one of the main themes of my podcast is I'm not trying to solve every single thing across the self-help spectrum. I'm not trying to make you more confident, more dependable, more authentic, more reliable, more outspoken, more outgoing on an individual basis and fix all of those things, because I think that's a waste of time and it's also sometimes a fruitless endeavor. But whenever you can take a step back, peel back the layers and go to the root of all of those things, and you can improve one or two things there, and then have all of those output metrics actually improve on the surface level, that's I feel like the value that I add or that I can help add to your life. And I can just do it in a more streamlined way than a lot of the resources that I've heard in the past. So I'm gonna I'm gonna break down these tips and tricks for you to improve your self-esteem. And before you know it, you're gonna be the most outgoing, most outspoken, most strongly opinionated, most confident, most successful, sexiest person to walk through the room. And it all starts with self-esteem. So let's get into it. And one other thing about self-esteem is that whenever you can lay out the roadmap and you can build self-esteem, you look down the road and you go down the list of things that change whenever you do that. Whenever you improve your self-esteem, you're inherently improving your self-trust, and you're inherently improving your ability to be compassionate with yourself. And you're also inherently improving your connection with your intuition, because a lot of the times our self-esteem comes into play and it disconnects us from our intuition whenever we have low self-esteem. And whenever we do that, we are lost, right? We have no compass. If you aren't connected with your intuition, you literally have no compass or no filter, no guidebook of where to go, what to do in life, what values to pursue, what interests to pursue. So doing this work of improving your self-esteem is, for me, in my perspective, and the perspective that I'm bringing to the table here, is that whenever you improve your self-esteem, a lot of that work is reconnecting with your intuition to guide you down the right paths. And that's all that I'm trying to do here, is whenever you can establish your unique connection to your intuition, that's whenever your self-esteem really starts to skyrocket and starts to improve, and you can rely on yourself to give you answers to some of the questions in life that you're searching for. So number one, whenever we're looking to build our self-esteem, I want you to take a big step back and I want you to focus on developing your taste. And I don't mean like your taste in food. I mean your general taste when it comes to all the things in our culture. I feel like I can probably predict that if you tend to have lower self esteem, you probably don't know exactly what kind of music you like. You probably have no real strong opinions about fashion or like the clothes that you wear. You probably tend to like go for things that are popular, or like you might have interior design that's reflective of like the top 10 most sold items on West Elm, things like that. I'm not coming for you, but what I'm saying is that if you know those things about yourself and you know that like you tend to look to other people to guide your opinions because you want to be aligned with the majority and like what's right, quote unquote, right in society, that's a telltale sign to me that you have a little bit lower self-esteem and you need to work on that. So one of the first ways we can do that is by relying on ourselves and relying on the fact that we have it within ourselves to decide our interests and our likes and dislikes in the world. And for me, like my entire life changed when I started embracing this. I started leaning into things that naturally I was gravitated towards. Like if you look around my apartment, I was really interested in neutrals. I was really interested in antiques. Everything is vintage in my apartment. Like everything that you see around here like can't be bought online with the exception of like a rug and a lamp. But everything else is custom made. Everything is reflective of my interests and things that I went out and found individually. Like you can't buy the coffee table you see in the background anywhere because it's one of a kind. It was custom made and it was vintage. I found it at a vintage store. So I knew inherently that like those things lit me up inside. Finding little knickknacks and little things that enhance the overall ambiance in my apartment and that are reflective of my interests is what makes my apartment look good, right? I could hire an interior designer and they could objectively make my apartment quote unquote look good, but it would have no vibe about it because I haven't actually imbued like my interests into the apartment. So that's why whenever you go to like someone's apartment and you see the Arc Digest book on their coffee table, it's kind of disappointing because you're like, no, I want you to show me like what you're interested in. I want your coffee table books to reflect what you're actually interested in. And I want you to like share a piece of me, share a piece of yourself with me whenever I see your apartment. So that's why I'm saying that honing and crafting your taste level and like actually deciding what it is that you like in terms of music, interior design, fashion, style, all of these things, if you can double down and curate things that like you deeply care about and like you're actually interested in, that will come across so incredibly confident and sexy to other people. People will literally gravitate towards you because they inherently think that you have good taste. And like plot twist, good taste is not something that can be faked, or it can't be something that you look to others to tell you what is or isn't cool. You actually have to do that work yourself. And whenever you actually pursue things and you go and find things that you're deeply interested in, that you deeply like, that's whenever people find you cool because you're taking a stance on something. The coolest people in the world that you can think of right now, they have taken a stance on things. Like they have a certain aesthetic, they have certain likes, they have certain dislikes, and they share those authentically and they talk about them authentically. So if we can like reverse engineer that and go back to the beginning and say, okay, if I wanted to build that outcome, what are the inputs I can change to get there? And the answer is clearly define what you're interested in, clearly define your tastes, clearly define what styles you like, clearly define your sense of fashion, what colors resonate with you, what styles resonate with you, what kind of jackets, shoes, what are your favorite brands, what are your favorite designers. And this all leads me to my next point, which is in order to build self-esteem, you need to be learning things. You absolutely need to be learning new things. That is the number one thing you can do to build self-esteem is go out and get curious about things that you're interested in, because there's nothing sexier, nothing more attractive than when someone knows things, when someone just generally knows things, right? If you can actually like think back on a time when someone was just speaking about something that they deeply cared about and they came across as a subject matter expert, how attractive was that, right? And knowing that, we can also reverse engineer that for ourselves. We can also say, okay, if I want to come across that way, what can I do? The answer is learn things, like go deep on certain things and certain topics that you're interested in, learn everything about them. That way you can speak about things whenever it comes up naturally in conversation. People are enamored by this. Whenever you can talk about something articulately and eloquently that you actually deeply care about, it draws people in, it reels people in. So in order to get that outcome, it'll be a positive feedback loop, right? Whenever you start learning things, you start talking about those things, people will find that attractive. People will gravitate towards that. They'll give you positive feedback and it'll make you want to learn more things. So all that to say, at the end of the day, just pick up a book, like literally read about anything. I would suggest like sticking away from fiction, maybe like read something nonfiction, something that's informative that you can learn about. So that way you actually have tangible knowledge that you can bring to conversations. And plot twist, you're also improving your vocabulary whenever you read and you learn things. And nobody likes to talk to somebody who has the vocabulary of like a second grader, right? So that would be my number one tip, is to learn things. And learning things and exposing yourself to new interests and new ideas helps you further refine this holistic picture of who you are and what you like. Whenever you learn more about something, you can take a more tangible and more refined stance on how much you like it or how much you dislike it, how much you're going to interact with it in the future, how much you're not going to interact with it. The next thing you're going to do is a practice, and you can do this every single day. What you're going to do is make strong choices, yes or no. Stop saying the word maybe. Even just try this today. If somebody asks you where you want to go to get food, don't say, I don't know, I could be down for anything. No, say, I want pizza. I want to go get Italian food. Let's do it. Whenever you have a strong opinion, people gravitate towards that. It's like one of the number one signs of a good leader. And I think oftentimes what we do is we tend to like suppress our needs and suppress our desires in order for more people to like us and for us to be more agreeable, for us to be more likable. And what that does is, yeah, it actually makes a lot more people like you, but it also lets people walk all over you. So what you need to start doing is take firm stances on things. So just practice this throughout the day. When somebody asks you a yes or no question, don't say, I don't know. Just answer it and stand by it. Even if it was the wrong decision in the moment and you realize that about yourself later, you're still learning something about that, right? Next time, you're going to say, oh, actually, I didn't like that much. I'm going to say no next time, or I'm going to say yes next time. In that scenario, you're actually learning things and you're changing. In the other scenario, when you say, I don't know, let's do whatever you want, you're not learning anything about yourself. And this all comes back down to learning more about yourself. What are your interests? What are your likes? What are your dislikes? What do you want to do? What don't you want to do? This practice of saying yes and no firmly, not saying maybe, and making strong choices is actually what's going to help you learn more about yourself and ultimately build more self-esteem. This next one, you're not going to like, and it's something that I have to practice every single day of my life. But what you're going to do is start speaking your mind when you have an opinion about something. Whenever you deeply feel something and you want to say something with your entire chest, actually do it, because people want to hear that, right? They don't want to hear wishy-washy opinions on things. They want to hear your strong opinions, because your opinions are what make you unique, because they're based in your feelings and your thoughts and your mix of experience and history. And so whenever you share your opinions, you're sharing more about who you are as a person. And when people can see that, they find that more attractive and they feel more connected to you. And it's another positive feedback loop. So next time you feel like you want to hide and turn into yourself and not share your opinion and not speak your mind, I'm going to challenge you to actually speak your mind in those situations. I'm going to challenge you to say that's probably the most important time that you actually can speak up. Other times when it's comfortable and easy and you're just like with a close friend and you don't care what they think and you speak up, that's fine, but it's not going to actually make you grow as a person. It's in those moments where you're uncomfortable and you have the possibility of judgment or rejection. That's whenever you need to start speaking your mind, because that's what's going to help you overcome that fear of being seen, that fear of having other people judge you or hear your authentic opinions or like see your authentic feelings. We want to challenge that, right? We want to grow past that. And so what you have to do is radically speak your mind. And a lot of people aren't going to like this at first, right? If you've been quiet, you've been agreeable, you've been someone who is very likable, you just go with the flow, and all of a sudden you change course, right? You change it up on people and you start speaking your opinion and you start taking stances on things, people aren't going to like it because they usually have walked all over you in the past. So whenever you start taking an opinion on something, watch carefully at which friends and which people around you push back on that versus which ones embrace it and say, I love that you spoke up right there. I love that you shared your opinion about something. Let's do that. Let's try that today. Take note of that because that's the clearest sign that people are taking advantage of you and taking advantage of like your lack of self-esteem or your lack of strong opinions is whenever you start speaking up for yourself and people have a problem with it. Those people are not for you. So what we're doing with all of this work to build self-esteem is we're building the groundwork and laying the foundation to be a confident person. Confident people kind of exist up here. And in order to get to that point, we need to actually build the ladder, lay the bricks, build up the wall to get up to that level of self-esteem. And all of that, all of these bricks that get you up to that point, those are all based on self-esteem. You can only build those bricks one way, and that's by trusting yourself. It's by learning about yourself. It's by having opinions. Whenever you do all of these things, all of these practices I just laid out, you start putting bricks, right? You start laying bricks, you start laying the foundation, and every time you do it, maybe it gets one level higher. And then the next time you do it, it gets another level higher. And next time you do something really hard and you speak your opinion in like a really, really contentious format, maybe you lay 2 or 3 bricks. And then all of these things start building up, right? Because your self-esteem is a dynamic snapshot in time and it can change over time. And so whenever you notice it getting low, that's whenever you have to do these practices to build it back up, to get you back to this 100% and this strong foundation that you can stand on in order to be confident. And so whenever you have all these things and all these tools equipped and you've done all this work, you naturally are going to come across as confident. And that's why I want to call out some other self-help experts and some other self-help books that claim that they can make you a more confident person. And they say, oh yeah, when you walk into a room, just put your shoulders back and then walk through and then that's going to make you confident. Like, sure, maybe people will think that you're more confident and it's like tricking them in that moment. But if you haven't actually done the work and actually laid the foundation to be confident and you fake it, you're not actually going to feel good or confident about faking that and acting that way because you don't have the chops to back it up. Like you haven't done the reps to back it up. And so whenever that comes into question, you're just going to crumble again and fall back down. So all of these books that are like 5 hacks to be confident today, it's a scam. You're not actually going to be confident because of that. The only way to build confidence is to build self-trust, and that you do that by building self-esteem and reconnecting with your intuition and who you are as a person. And I will stand by that until the day that I die. That's why it's important to notice your self-esteem level. Check in with yourself. If you're having a bad week and you've noticed that you've been having a few bad weeks in a row, check in with those tests and those questions I asked at the beginning of this episode. Ask yourself those things. If you notice that those things are reflective of you having low self-esteem in that moment, it's okay. It doesn't define you. It just means we need a little tune-up. And you can do all of these things I just laid out in order to build back up your self-esteem to get you back to that confident place. And I definitely just want to say, like, the last note is your self-esteem and your mood are intrinsically tied together. Whenever you're going throughout your weeks and you're noticing that you're having a lot of bad weeks, you're down, you're unmotivated, you're feeling lazy, you're feeling stuck, a lot of that has to do with low self-esteem. Whenever you're in that whirlpool of self-doubt, questioning yourself, anxiety, not sure what next step to take, all of that is like self-fulfilling. And self-esteem, a lack of self-esteem is the fuel for that whirlpool. So if you can jut yourself out of it, shake yourself out of it, and just start laying the bricks of self-esteem, you start working on all these problems inherently. You start building up the energy and the motivation to start tackling these big issues in life. So that truly is the first step to getting unstuck. And I know I talk a lot about like taking micro steps to get unstuck, but really what the goal of those micro steps is to give you enough energy to start taking these bigger steps to build your self-esteem. And self-esteem is like the root of so many things in life. It's the root of almost every problem that you might encounter throughout life. If you have high self-esteem, you're ready to take on challenges, you're ready to take on obstacles, you're ready to face headwinds, and you're just generally like more alive as a person. So I'd say that self-esteem is kind of table stakes to do any sort of further work on yourself or further understanding of yourself. So self-esteem is something that's table stakes for you to be able to do deeper work on yourself and you to be able to evolve even more as a human. Whenever we lack self-esteem, we can't ask ourselves the more challenging questions in life. We can't go deeper. We can't get more granular. We have to do this groundwork before we can actually start creating the life that we want to. So this is your first step. It starts today. Start building your self-esteem today with the tricks that I just gave you. Thanks so much for listening today. And I really hope this was helpful. And I really hope that you can get some solid takeaways from this and actually start working on your self-esteem and start taking the steps to become the person that you want to become today. So thank you so much again. And I can't wait to talk to you again next week. All right. Bye, everyone.